Okay, we're going to go ahead and talk about the first assignment that you're going to have this semester in writing the parent email. So there's a lot of reasons why this is going to be important for you to be able to do in the classroom as a classroom teacher. Um, but the three things that I want you to keep in mind as you are writing parent emails to the parents of your students is to be clear, respectful, and professional with your tone. You don't want to write this email in the same way that you would text your friends, and you don't want to use the same language. So the first thing we want to kind of touch base on is why we would write that email. And there's three main reasons. Two of the most well used reasons are listed here. And that is you're going to email for academic reasons. So perhaps you have a student that's not passing your class or a student who is not doing well, not turning in assignments. Those are going to be your academic reasons. You might also email for behavior reasons. You might have a student who is engaging in behaviors that are not appropriate for the classroom. Maybe that behavior is consistent and it is definitely interfering with their learning and the learning of the other students in the class. That is something that you definitely want to contact parents about. Now, I mentioned emails here, but phone calls are always great. But there's benefits to using email, which we will talk about in just a moment. But the third reason that you do not see listed here, and one that I think is underused, is you want to email parents for positive things. So perhaps the student gets an A on a test, perhaps the student has done something really well, perhaps they have uh, initiated some kind of a positive change in your classroom, some kind of growth that you're very proud of. Communicating that to the parents is always going to benefit that child because they're going to continue to demonstrate that behavior and they're going to continue to work hard for you, continue to grow. So, a couple of things here I want to touch base on. Email communication has some benefits over phone calls. The first thing is it's going to make sure that you are building the trust with families. They know that they can hear from you when something's going on in the classroom. Education is a partnership between parents, teachers, and the student, and this helps to establish that partnership. The second thing is it's going to prevent misunderstandings. Sometimes when you say things verbally, someone might hear it a different way. Whereas if it is written, they can always go back and reread that to make sure that they understood and that they heard you correctly. The third thing, and one that I think is probably the greatest benefit, is that it documents that communication. You have a written record of what you said to that parent, and they have a written record of what was communicated to them. And that email can be forwarded, it can be saved, and so forth. Now, with that in mind, that's why it's very important to be very professional in what you say. And then it does also reflect that professionalism. Um, Being able to email effectively is one of those employability skills that we definitely value as educators and as leaders of educators and administrators. And we want to make sure that we build that skill in you before you enter the classroom. Before you write your email, take some time to clarify your purpose. Know what it is that you are going to say. And one suggestion I have when you get into the field is to have a colleague look over your email before you send it to get their feedback. Sometimes when you say something, it might sound different in your mind as compared to how they perceive it. So you definitely want to get their feedback before you do that. That's a great practice to engage in. Also, consider the parent's perspective. One thing to keep in mind is that parents are sending you their best children. They don't have other children at home that they're just keeping from you. They are sending their best. And they often see their child differently than what you might experience in the classroom. They might have different experiences with them. Many cases, if the parent is working a lot, they might not have a lot of time with that child at home. So you want to make sure that you consider the perspective of the parent. Try to get that parent on your side because really at the end of the day, you're trying to do what's best for the child and the parent wants what's best for their child as well. You always want to check your facts and you always want to look back on student records. Make sure that there's not something that's happened in the past or, if you're communicating, like let's say, for example, you're teaching a science class and they're failing your science class. If you go back to 2 grades before, you'll notice that they were also not doing so well in science. So maybe there's a trend there that you can help address as an educator to see if you can lead to some kind of a positive change within that student's practice. And you also want to avoid your emotional responses. If something's happened in the classroom and you feel flooded with emotions, take some time to let that dissipate, let that get out of your system before you sit down to write that email. Email should be stated in a way that's factual, but also positive, because you're looking for a solution to whatever you're sending. In your subject line, please be very clear about what you're saying. And here are 3 great examples of what we're talking about there. The first is going to be, if there's a missing assignment, just go ahead and put that in the subject line so the parent knows what is being addressed there. Again, you can use these or something like this. So positive progress update on behavior in the classroom, concern regarding missing assignments. Those are very clear ways to say what that email is about before the parent even opens it. In the email, you want to have that professional tone. And really the big words here are going to be polite, respectful, and we also want to be calm and neutral. Okay, those are the 4 things. This is not your time to try to be humorous or use sarcasm. You want to avoid emojis unless, and this is the only example at which I would use an emoji, is if you send a positive email, it is perfectly permissible to put that little smiley face emoji in there if you want to. All right, but you definitely want to avoid that if it's not a positive email. If it's an academic or behavior concern, make sure that you're using clear professional language. The structure of the email. If you follow these 5 steps, then you are going to do a great job of that email. So just to kind of summarize here, we have the greeting, where you introduce yourself, the purpose, why are you writing, what's relevant to the parent, don't waste their time, with being overly wordy, just try to get to the point. And then this part right here is where I really want you to embrace what I'm saying, and that is offer some kind of a solution, right? So there's something going on that you're not satisfied with, that's not best for the child. What is a solution to the problem that is something that is possible, that can be done, that will fix the situation, make things better for that child's educational experience? And then you want to close in some kind of a way that's professional. And I'll show you some examples of that really quickly. All right, what to include, be specific, give the dates, give the title of the assignments, the behaviors that are happening. Make sure that you want to focus on the student more than your own personal practice. It's really about their experience in the classroom. And then phrase it collaboratively. And by that I mean use words like we and our, those plural pronouns where you can try to get the parent on board as a team member. And then you want to have those clear next steps. Remember, you are focused on solutions. All right, you don't want to keep hammering the problem. You want to offer some way to fix it. Now, again, we're going to avoid all of these things. No blame or accusations, no educational jargon. Parents don't understand the same language that you use. If we talk about IEPs, 504 plans, things like that, they will understand those things, but sometimes we have acronyms or we have phrases we use in education that unless the parent's a teacher, they're not going to know what they mean. So we want to be careful with that. And then you want to not be emotional when you write it. Again, make sure you're calm, make sure you're clear, make sure you're focused. And you don't want to ever mention students by name, any other students in the classroom. The only student you want to address is the student, is the child of that parent. Here's a sample email that I have here. I'm not going to read it to you. I'm going to let you pause the video, read it to yourself. But here you can kind of see where, again, those 5 characteristics that I outlined, they are present in this email. All right. You do not want to use email for heated or emotional situations, for serious discipline issues, for sensitive personal matters. You don't want to do that. And sometimes these are the cases where a phone call is definitely better and a meeting is definitely better. There's not a way to avoid a meeting in some of these instances. It just needs to be done. But again, you want to make sure that you're using email at the right time for the right purpose. proofread before you send. Guys, do not send an email to parents that does not have the proper grammar and spelling, especially if you're teaching that child language arts. They want to know that the teacher in that classroom, they want to have the confidence to know the teacher knows what they're doing, and it really damages your credibility if that happens. Now, that does happen from time to time. It's not the end of the world, but you definitely want to try to avoid that by checking it. You also want to confirm the names and details. Make sure you're sending the email to the right parent too. There have been instances where teachers send an email home about a child to the wrong parent, and that's just a very embarrassing situation. So please don't do that. And reread what you're going to send before you hit send. And then practice reading it out loud. Make sure that it sounds like what you're trying to intend. And again, that suggestion I had to have a colleague or fellow teacher read that before you send. So key takeaways: be professional and clear. Focus on that collaboration between you and the parent. Keep the student at the center. Again, this is student focus. When in doubt, pause and review. You don't have to hit send if you're not ready. Wait till you know that it's perfect, that it's going to reflect what you're actually trying to say. So I'm going to go ahead and issue an assignment to you to write a professional email. Now I'm going to give you some sample scenarios for you to choose from, and you're going to write that email, structure it in a positive way, and I'm going to give you some feedback on that. Now, please go back and look at my example that I provided. That's going to give you a great example for the wording for how you should word it, and also how long it should be. And again, you can choose between those behavioral, academic, or positive emails. Again, these are some of my favorite to send to parents, because here's the thing. If you send home a positive email, later on down the road when you have an issue like you have a behavior problem or academic issue, that parent is going to be so much more supportive because they know that you have that child's interest at heart. One thing I do want to point out here is that there are some AI tools that can help you as an educator to make sure that your email is very effective. And I want to go ahead and just give a shout out to Magic School AI. If you do not have an account, go ahead and create that account, and you are free to use this as a tool for the assignment provided. Again, AI is a tool. It's not meant to do the work for you, but it can certainly help you. And there are many tools that are designed specifically for educators. Here is an example of that first scenario that you can choose. This is an academic concern. The student has several missing assignments or a declining grade, and the teacher emails the parent to inform them of the concern, explain what work is missing, and outline the steps the student can take to improve. And here's some examples: tutoring, deadlines, and support. So that's one of the scenarios you can choose. You can also choose a behavior or classroom conduct issue. And here we have a student has demonstrated repeated disruptive behavior, inappropriate language, or a violation of classroom expectations. The teacher contacts the parent to describe the behavior factually, explain how it impacts learning, and request collaboration to address the issue. So you can choose this one as well. And the third choice for that scenario that you can choose is a positive recognition or improvement. A student has shown noticeable improvement, leadership, or effort in class. The teacher emails the parent to share positive feedback and reinforce the student's progress, helping build a strong home-school partnership. All right, so here's an example of what we see in Magic School AI. So if you go to Magic School AI, and this is my free account that I have there, you have a professional email tone emulator. So what you basically do is you type in what you want to say, and then it gives you an example of what you could have. And again, you are free to use this. It doesn't do the work for you, so you're certainly going to have to proofread it, make sure you tailor it to the assignment, but it can give you some great examples for how to set that professional tone. And I just want to say thank you for watching. If you need help or assistance with the assignment, feel free to reach out to me. I'm here to help you, and I look forward to seeing some great emails from you guys.